Somebody call a doctor.
They want a bigger logo. You can't handle a bigger logo.
G'day. This is the Dr. Branding Podcast. I am your branding Dr. Frank. The surgery is open. We are on air, and let's answer our next patient's question. Today comes from Abdul in the Middle East, and he's got a bit of a different one for me, which was an interesting one to come in, and I appreciate it nonetheless. What does your day look like as a branding person and content creator? I told you it was a bit different. Abdul, thank you for this question. I thought I'd field it because it's something that you don't really get an insight, maybe if you're a branding person, what others are doing out there, especially if you're a solo designer and wondering if you are doing the right thing or, you know, am I doing something that is on the right path, because you don't have others around you working with you to get a sense of what is the expectation of a day. In that context, you're working in a 9-to-5 job, most likely. If you're in an agency level role or in a business and you are maybe a sole designer, that might be something that you might relate to with this, of how we can approach our day. Or if you are a solo business owner, a freelancer, works from home potentially, or works in an office singularly, a co-working space, should I say. And you know, this might be of interest to you. I have no idea. I can't speak for anyone else's experience here other than my own in terms of how I approach my day. But there's no real diagnosis here. There's no real prescription here of what you could do. All I would say is love what you do. That would be my only prescription, I think, as a precursor to what I'll give in terms of an insight of my day. But also the other part to it is, I guess, again, as a precursor, is you do have a lot of time. Especially if you are single, let's say, you don't have kids, you maybe even live at home. There's less dependency on helping others other than your clients. And you have a remarkable amount of time that you think you probably don't have in a week, but you know, you compound it over time. You do have an excruciatingly long amount of time to get things done, but it feels excruciating in the opposite direction, where you don't feel like you have a lot of time and you get wound up by it and things don't get done. And this is where you get into a conundrum of be it procrastination or just total uncertainty of how to plan out your day. So if this gives you any clarity of maybe something to be inspired by, I don't know. I'm not saying that my day is very regimented in a way, but I do want to, and I might give you a bit of an insight into what I want to do, I guess, in the coming days, if not weeks, because I am feeling a little bit out of touch at the moment in terms of my days. So let's break it down. In terms of my day, Mondays, I don't work. And that might maybe shock you. I only work 4 days a week. The Mondays I spend with my daughter. She's only 3, so she's not in daycare on that particular day. She's in daycare for the other days of the week, or with my wife. And so my wife's at work, my son's at school, and my daughter's here. And so I don't really work, essentially. I might do something throughout the day if there's a very quick, small, urgent thing that a client has come through in an email, because I check my emails, they're on my phone, they always ping through. I can't not field a notification. I'm one of those people that can't have a little red circle notification dot atop any app, be it on my computer or on my phone. I have to clear it. It's a bit of an OCD thing. I don't know. But yeah, Mondays is typically not doing client work. In the evening though, after dinner, once the kids are in bed and asleep, I might come into my office here at home and produce this podcast or some content, be it writing in a blog or on LinkedIn or on Threads, creating something on Instagram. I used to do a lot. I don't do that so much anymore because I've kind of fell out of love with Instagram. Or it might be something on my own business, be it a website or some other bits or pieces that I'm working on in the background. So that's my Monday. It's pretty uneventful in terms of any kind of work aspects. But if you come into the day on Mondays, because I obviously used to work on Mondays until I started having a day with my daughter on Mondays, is try and, I think, plan out your week. I think that would be the takeaway. And in terms of plan out your week, is getting it down out of your head and on paper. And this is what I'm trying to do at the moment, is to make sure that I'm planning out my week rather than just each day and going, okay, what do I need to accomplish? Is just planning out the week, because I think I get my knickers in a knot. And by knickers, I mean underpants, and it's a saying in Australia, by getting really confused and stressed and having anxiety, is that when you've got a lot on your plate, you're thinking, far out, how am I going to get through all of this in a day or in the next couple of weeks? And you get, just frazzled by it all. But once I start, and this you might find to relate to this, once you start planning out what I'm going to do each day, it becomes so much clearer. Like astoundingly clearer, where you're like, why did I not think of this before? Like, what was I doing? What was I thinking? Like, come on. Like, Tuesday is going to be dedicated to this. I'm going to do these things. I need to get these particular things done. You know, even if it's one project, I need to break down the project. Okay, I need to do this. And then on Wednesday, this. Thursday, this. Friday, that. And it breaks it up astoundingly well to know how to manage your time. Give yourself some deadlines, which might help you work quicker, which I've found that definitely does. And then you've got, a roadmap to work towards. And then that feeling of accomplishment, I've got to say as well, ticking off those things, it's like, yeah, it's like, yeah, that feeling. So that's what I am trying to do at the moment, because I do it. When I do it, it works so well. And then I forget about it. And I'm like, what am I doing? I can't. And I'm just total roadblock. It feels a little ADHD. I don't think I have ADHD, but I do have some friends that do. And I can understand the struggle and maybe empathize with it rather than relate to it necessarily. But that's kind of that feeling of being stuck and going, oh, what do I need to do next? Plan it out. And it's always a reminder to me, is plan it out. So much so that I've put a sticky note on front of my monitor on my computer desk with that thing saying plan it out. Just 3 words, plan it out. So that's one thing. That's Mondays. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, that's when I have to pack in my work. And typically during work hours, 9 till 5, and I typically won't start work until 9:30, 10 o'clock, because I drop my kids off to school those days, and then by the time I get home, I have some breakfast, and I get into work. It's usually 9:30 to 10. I'm fielding some emails that might have come in overnight, especially as I have clients from overseas or people I partner with that live overseas rather than here in Australia, because we're in very different time zones, obviously. I'll field those emails first. And then it's a case of, okay, what do I need to prioritize to get things done? There's obviously deadlines for some clients with some projects. I need to get that done. But typically I found on Tuesday mornings now, is what I'm doing right now is to record 2 episodes of this podcast. To get that out of the way for the first sort of starting day of the week for me, to really move into it, get that rhythm going, is to do something that I enjoy doing. And obviously talking is kind of it, but making something at least is to make something for myself and for you obviously too that are listening and watching, but to do something creative to begin with that isn't beholden to a client. It is for me and my own purposes. And that be that. That's that sort of edging my way into the week. And then it's looking at my emails, looking at the client work I'm going to need to do. And for me, typically on a Tuesday, I have a retainer client, and I'll prioritize them in terms of their work and what they need at that day or this week, and try and get through that work as quick as possible. It's very much an incentive to me to get my work done as quick as possible, so I can move on to the next thing and then have more work come in as a result of it. So that's my Tuesdays basically in terms of the day. From between 9 and 5 o'clock, that's what I'm doing in my Tuesdays. And then I pick up my kids. I have to do the whole, daddy put down in effect, which is, bath time, making dinner, putting them to bed, having my own dinner with my wife, and then coming back in here on a Tuesday and probably doing something. Be it content creation, editing this podcast, publishing this podcast, or doing something else that is working on my business in terms of either promoting it or creating some touch points that I'm working on. Then in terms of Wednesdays and Thursdays, it's pretty much the same. It could be a case of a new client with a workshop where I have to block out, 2 to 3 hours in some of these days to have workshops with them, or a client's lead gen call for half an hour and have to time that in between client work. But it's this juggling of the work where you can leave enough time, I think, to do the things you need to do in a day, be it lunchtime, be it going out for a walk, but also then, prioritizing client work. And this is the thing, I think, in terms of each of those days from Wednesday to Friday, where it's pretty much the same work day. And then in the evening, again, Wednesday, Thursday, coming in, doing some content, sometimes on Friday, something that I can do where I'm feeling productive at night rather than just sitting on the couch and watching TV. At the moment, it's a little bit different. I'm focused on the Olympics. I'm quite into watching sport, and the Olympics especially. So that's taken my focus away from wanting to do any content at the moment, because I'll sit down and watch the Paris Olympics. So I find it fascinating. But otherwise, it'll be doing something creative to do it for myself, to be able to put out into the world, promote my business, and do all those things. But to me, I've had a thought about this, had a total shower thought about this, is to prioritize some other things in life, to get things done and how to go about that. And I'm planning on it, and I haven't done it yet, so I can't report, but I'll probably report back maybe in a future episode is if it's working or not. It's kind of like these blocking out these hours. It's like 1 hour of being outside, 1 hour of reading, 1 hour of writing, 1 hour of something that's enjoyable, be it playing a video game or watching a TV show. Again, I said this the other day in another episode. I've been watching House, that TV show House from years ago, rewatching that. So something that I find enjoyable in an hour of a day. So there's 4 hours of something that isn't client work, on top of client work, which is maybe 7 to 8 hours at most in a day, and doing that throughout the day. So blocking out these times to find that if I wake up early, then I usually do at the moment. If I wake up earlier, get through the day, get breakfast, get dressed, get ready, showered, all the rest of it, get the kids and my wife off to school and work. So I could get into my office here at 9 o'clock, maybe do an hour of reading, and then get into client work, and then before lunch do an hour of writing, and then have lunch, and then get into some more client work, and then pick up the kids and do all the things. Or it might be changing up those blocks where, before lunch is having a walk, or after lunch is having a walk outside for an hour. Or when I pick the kids up, have an hour outside with them after school. Things like that I can do throughout a day to do and mix up things that are a benefit to me, because I do want to write. I do want to make a book at the moment. I'm trying to write a book, and create some content, or it's an hour spent on my website until I get my website updated. So that to me is another thing that I need to tick off on my list of to-dos. I'm not getting paid for these things. That's why they're not a priority. So these things fall down to the wayside if I'm not prioritizing them and working them into my day. So this is, to me, something where I need to look at my calendar and go, okay, these hours that I'm blocking out, so that I get a reminder, and it's like, dude, you need to get out there and go for a walk. Dude, you need to stop and just sit down and read for an hour, get inspired, get educated on something. Because I'm looking at it now, over the other side of this studio setup, I have a bookcase of books. Half of them I've never really opened to read. And there's so much information in them that I know will be of value to me. But it's just carving out that time. And so I bring it back to, this question here that Abdul's asked very kindly. I did give him a very direct answer to this in terms of my day. But to give this an understanding for you guys is that I think if you are looking at your day maybe and saying, I don't have enough time to do all these things, especially like a content creation side of things, in addition to doing your branding work during the day, is that if you do want to do content in whatever shape, form it is, be it videos, be it posts, be it writing, podcasts, whatever it is if it's of interest to you, you will find time to do it. And find a way to do it. And if you're in a position where you don't have a lot of dependencies to, help, be it kids or working with your wife on the day-to-day things, or, your housemates or something like that, you have a lot of time. You have a lot of time to do these things. And if you think you don't, you've got to make the time for it. You've got to come in and have the discipline, especially if you're your own business owner. You've got to have the discipline to do all these things that are not just the client work. Case in point is even accounting. Getting on your accounting software and doing and carving out that time. I try and do at least 1 day a week of that, if not every fortnight, to look at my bookkeeping and put all my expenses in and do all my transfers to match up all that stuff it's tedious stuff. It's not something I really find that all that much interest in. I do have an accountant as well, but I try and do the bookkeeping side of things in the day-to-day so that it is nice, neat, and tidy. So there's that. There's also things like just even your email. If you're fastidious like I am in a way of keeping your inbox clean and sorted and categorized so you can find emails again in the future. So, in Gmail, I categorize all my emails with different color codes and names, obviously, for my different clients, or if other, brand partnerships I do, or if it's other creators, or my personal stuff, or if it's expenses, bills, all that kind of stuff. It's all categorized, and that can take up to an hour if I leave it too long. So again, that's something that I'll try and do every week, if not every fortnight, and it makes it feel very organized. And I think that's exactly the same as my desk. If my desk is organized, if my week is organized, if my calendar is organized, if my inbox is organized, if my accounting is organized, I feel much clearer. I feel organized, obviously. Organized. I feel much more organized. I feel much more clearer and have clarity about what I need to do, what I need to achieve, and do that. The hurdle, the mountain you need to climb is obviously getting to that pinnacle and doing it. And that to me is the hardest part, obviously. But at the end of the day, we've got to work towards something in our own day to day. So if you are a business owner, you could relate to any of that. Fantastic. If you're if you do work in an office space, and I wanted to maybe target you for a couple of minutes here before I finish up, is if you do work in an office space and you're considering maybe going out on your own or doing sort of your own side things as well to have that creative outlet personally away from work. Because I remember working in an office as kind of the only designer in a TV production studio. And, at night, I would just, as soon as I walked out the door, I would switch off. I'd go out of design mode and do my own thing and do something completely different. I was making custom Star Wars action figure card backs. When you go into the shop and it has like cardboard and then the blister package with the character figurine stuck onto that. I used to make those card backs just as some kind of creative outlet to remake my own versions of them. Things like that you can do and you create your own creative pursuits. My wife does the same thing. She makes her own clothing or earrings. Things that you might do as your own little hobbies. Or it might be a case that you are doing sort of some moonlighting design work for your own clients and that's the time that you have to do the work in the evenings. You've got to be committed to it. You really got to find, the gumption to really stick to doing that and carving out that time after working a full day. That takes some proper commitment to do that. But that might be that stepping stone for you if you do have an ambition to start your own business is, having that foundational sort of security, I guess you could say, of a job, and then building upon it until you get to a level of being able to charge enough and then having enough of a pipeline of clients to come in to feel comfortable that you can go out on your own. That might also require a bit of runway, bit of capital in the bank to have in case you don't get enough clients to begin with, or if there's a dry patch that we all generally go through, is having, again, that little bit of buffer to rely on if times get a bit slow, which they do when you run your own business here and there. And that can give you that little propulsion into quitting your job and maybe starting your own business. That's kind of how I went about starting my own business. Or you might bring on your business that you worked for as a client and then start your own thing. That's exactly what I did when I started out. Anyway, that went off on a very long tangent. So that's how my day generally looks as a branding person and content creator. Typically, the content is made in the evenings, if not first thing before I start work. It's generally not done during the day unless I don't have much work going on. That's going to sort of slightly change, I think, as well. I do want to make some YouTube content, and that's more of like a vlogging style of showing a behind the scenes of my day, where I need to kind of shoot certain things throughout the day of what I'm doing to get a bit of an insight, because we don't see the inside of what other people do out there. So, this might give, you more of an insight into how my day looks, what it looks like physically as well, what I'm going through, trials and tribulations of running a business, all that kind of stuff. So, my day is going to be mixed up. I'll report back maybe in a few weeks' time, see how it goes after I get a few of those videos up, after I get my calendar sorted. and give you an update on what the doctor's doing. Oh dear. Anyway, look, thank you for the question, Abdul. I really appreciate you asking that question. And for those of you listening, I do hope that helps you in some way, shape, or form. If you found that interesting, fantastic. If you haven't already, please take a piece of brand candy. It's my free resource guide to do better branding that you can get on your way out at g'dayfrank.com/candy. You can also make an appointment via that link if you want to ask a question like Abdul, and I will see you in my next appointment in my next episode. Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening. The surgery is now closed. The Dr. Branding Podcast is hosted by Reagan Frank McCrill, that's me, and for legal reasons I want to be clear that I am not a registered or qualified doctor. The premise for this podcast is that it is a satirical analogy for branding consultancy to help others with their brand success. This podcast is also sponsored by my branding business, G'day Frank. Say g'day today by booking a call with me at g'dayfrank.com.